America is facing a truth it doesn't want to hear. The dream that built this country is already dead. For decades, it was the promise that kept everything together. Work hard, own a home, raise a family. But today, millions are walking away from that promise, not because they failed, but because they've seen through the lie. This isn't just a generational shift. When they stop believing, the foundations of the system begin to break. What force is pushing an entire generation to rebel in silence? And what happens when the myth that held America together finally shatters? To find the answer, we have to return to the very moment this dream was born and watch where the cracks first appeared. America didn't just wake up one day to find its dream broken. The collapse wasn't sudden, it was silent. It began with hairline fractures hidden beneath decades of optimism, growth, and blind faith. After World War II, a new myth rose from the ashes, the American dream. Suburbs stretched across the land, each street a copy of the last, each house a promise of security. White fences, 2 kids, a car shining in the driveway. It wasn't sold as luxury, it was sold as destiny. Work hard, stay loyal, and you will be rewarded. And for a while, it worked. Factories roared, wages climbed. A single paycheck could build a future. Families believed the dream was unbreakable. The world looked at America and thought, this is how life is supposed to be. But every dream has a cost. Beneath the shining surface, something was rotting. The cost of living climbed higher, slowly enough that no one noticed until it was too late. Wages froze, opportunities narrowed. To keep up, families turned to credit. Loans became the new lifeline, and with every borrowed dollar, the dream grew more fragile. Debt wasn't an accident, it became the engine. Banks made fortunes. Advertisers told you to spend what you didn't have. The dream was no longer earned, it was rented, and the system thrived as long as you kept chasing. By the 1970s, the cracks widened. Oil crises shook the economy. Inflation ate away at savings. Jobs that once built the middle class vanished or paid less. Yet the story never changed. Politicians promised recovery. Hollywood kept selling perfect lives, and ordinary Americans, they kept running after the mirage. Then came the 1980s, deregulation, outsourcing, credit cards in every wallet. Debt soared, but so did illusions. Homes were flipped, stocks climbed, and people thought they were getting richer. In reality, they were sinking deeper into a system designed to keep them paying forever. The 1990s brought a new twist, technology. The internet arrived, promising endless opportunity. But behind the screens, corporations cut costs, shipped jobs overseas, and squeezed workers harder. The dream was becoming a game only the few could win. And then, 2008, the year the dream nearly died. Millions lost their homes, their savings, their hope. Families were thrown into chaos. Entire neighborhoods were left abandoned. The dream didn't just crack, it shattered. And here's what no one wants to say. Instead of rebuilding a stronger foundation, they simply patched the pieces. Trillions were pumped into the system, not to save families, but to keep the machine alive. Easy loans returned. Interest rates fell. Stock markets soared. On the surface, recovery. Underneath, the same broken structure. A generation watched all this happen. They saw their parents work themselves to exhaustion, only to lose everything. They learned early that loyalty to the system meant nothing. They entered adulthood with crushing student debt, unaffordable housing, and jobs that no longer offered a future. So they stopped believing. They stopped playing the game. For them, the dream isn't broken, it's a trap. And this shift terrifies those in power, because when belief dies, control dies with it. The first cracks have become fractures, and the fractures are spreading. The dream isn't fading quietly. It's bleeding out in front of everyone who dares to look. If you're still here listening to this, it means you see it too. Hit the like button now, because this is the story the system doesn't want spreading. Every click makes this truth harder to bury. But this is only the surface, because behind every collapse, there's always a hidden hand, the one that kept the illusion alive long after it should have fallen. And to see that hand, we need to step into the shadows where the real rebellion begins. The cracks are no longer invisible. They have spread so far that they now form the landscape of an entire generation's life. But this isn't just a story of collapse. It's a story of resistance, a rebellion so quiet, so invisible to the naked eye, that it's rewriting the rules without a single protest sign being raised. Look closer. Fewer weddings, fewer children, young adults postponing milestones that were once considered inevitable. They're not buying houses in the suburbs. They're not staying at one job for 30 years. They're not chasing the same dream their parents spent their lives defending. They are walking away, and they're doing it deliberately. Why? Because they have seen what others refuse to see. They grew up in homes where stability was an illusion. They saw their parents work themselves to the bone only to lose everything when the economy shifted overnight. They were promised that education was the key to success, only to graduate drowning in student loans worth more than the homes they could never afford. They were told that owning property was the ultimate achievement, just as prices soared beyond reach. They were told to start families, while the cost of raising a child became a burden many couldn't bear. So they broke the script. They stopped playing by the old rules because they realized the game was rigged. For them, ownership doesn't mean safety anymore. It means chains. They are choosing something radically different: mobility, flexibility, freedom. Instead of accumulating possessions, they are accumulating moments. Instead of stability, they are choosing adaptability. This is why so many are rejecting the traditional path. They live out of suitcases, work from cafes in foreign countries, and treat home as a temporary concept. The rise of digital nomads isn't just a lifestyle trend, it's a declaration that the old way no longer serves them. The gig economy, freelancing, remote work, these are not just economic shifts, they are acts of rebellion against the old contract society offered. Social media has only accelerated this. It shows a different dream, one where you can live anywhere, earn money on your own terms, and escape the pressures of ownership. Millions are watching, millions are copying. What started as a personal choice is becoming a cultural movement. But here's where it gets complicated. While this looks like freedom, it hides a shadow. Without home ownership, there's no wealth building. Without stable careers, there's no safety net. Without families, there's no next generation to hold society together. The rebellion that feels empowering today could, in time, dismantle the very structures that make a society function. This is why governments are worried. Declining birth rates are already reshaping demographics. An aging population means fewer workers to support the system. Housing markets built on the assumption of constant demand are trembling. Corporations are uneasy too. A workforce that refuses to be tied down is harder to control, harder to exploit, harder to predict. And yet, this rebellion remains invisible to most. There are no protests in the streets, no banners, no speeches. It lives in millions of private choices: the decision to rent instead of buy, to travel instead of settle, to delay instead of commit. These decisions seem small, but together they are rewriting the foundations of an entire nation. The old dream depended on faith, faith that the system worked, faith that sacrifice would be rewarded. But faith is dying, and with it the power of the story that held America together for decades. This rebellion is not fueled by anger, by disillusionment. It's not loud, but it's relentless. It is reshaping cities, hollowing out suburbs, changing economies, and leaving policymakers scrambling to catch up. Every person who refuses to buy in takes another brick out of the wall, and when enough bricks are gone, the wall falls. If you're still here, it means you're not just watching a video. You're seeing a shift the world hasn't fully understood yet. Subscribe now, because what comes next is darker, deeper, and far more unsettling than anyone is willing to admit. Because this rebellion isn't just changing how people live. It's eroding what they once believed in. And when belief collapses, it leaves a void that something or someone will rush to fill.
Out of the ashes of the old dream, something unexpected is taking shape. It doesn't come with fences or mortgages. It doesn't ask for loyalty to one place or one employer. It's fluid, decentralized, and to many, intoxicating. For this generation, freedom is no longer about owning property. It's about not being tied to it. Instead of building wealth through ownership, they're building lives through experiences. They value memories over material, flexibility over permanence, and choice over tradition. The new dream is mobility. It's the ability to pack everything you own into a backpack and move across the world if you want to. It's earning money from a laptop, on your terms, without ever stepping into an office. It's rejecting the idea that success means staying in one place long enough to plant roots. Social media plays a powerful role here. Platforms show endless streams of people living from beaches, working from mountain cabins, exploring cities where the cost of living is a fraction of the US. They showcase lifestyles that don't rely on debt, mortgages, or the 9-to-5 grind. Millions are watching, millions are following. The message is clear: you don't have to play the old game to win. And this shift isn't limited to travel. It's visible everywhere. Cars, they're rented, not owned. Homes, temporary leases. Even relationships are changing. Commitments are delayed or redefined. This new dream thrives on the idea that nothing has to be forever. But like any dream, this one has its shadows. Without ownership, there's no equity, no legacy to pass on. Without permanence, building community becomes harder. Without roots, there's always the risk of being displaced, of living a life where everything is temporary, including security. Governments struggle to adapt. Entire economies were built on the assumption that people would buy homes, start families, and consume endlessly. When fewer do, the economic engine slows. Policies designed for stability are now colliding with a generation that values movement over settlement. Corporations see it too. They are reshaping themselves to fit this new reality, offering remote work, flexible contracts, short-term incentives. But they also exploit it, pushing gig work that offers freedom on the surface while stripping away protections underneath. The new dream feels liberating, but it's fragile. It depends on global connectivity, technology, and constant access to opportunities that can disappear overnight. It empowers individuals while weakening the structures that once protected them. And yet, despite the risks, millions are choosing it. They prefer the unknown to the trap. They would rather own nothing than be owned by everything. This dream is spreading fast, but it carries a question no one wants to answer. What happens to a nation when its people stop building foundations and start living only for the moment? The consequences of that question are already unfolding, and they lead to a future far more unpredictable than anyone imagines.
Every rebellion has a price, and the one unfolding now is quietly rewriting the destiny of an entire nation. The choices millions make in silence, to delay, to walk away, to live without anchors, are echoing across the system with a force no one can stop. The cracks have become fault lines, and they are tearing through the foundations of society. Birth rates are plunging to historic lows. For the first time, many countries, including the United States, are no longer replacing their populations. Fewer children means fewer workers, and fewer workers means an economy that can no longer sustain its promises. An aging population drains resources faster than they can be replenished. Pensions buckle, healthcare systems overflow, welfare programs collapse under their own weight. Housing markets, once the heartbeat of the American dream, now pulse irregularly. They were built on the expectation that every new generation would rush to buy. But this generation is not buying. Prices rise out of control, only to crash when demand evaporates. Developers pull back. Cities that once expanded with confidence now face empty streets, abandoned homes, and shrinking tax bases. This isn't just economics, it's a cultural unraveling. When families no longer form, traditions die with them. Holidays lose their meaning. Communities thin out, replaced by temporary connections that vanish as quickly as they appear. Neighborhoods lose their sense of belonging, turning into transient spaces where no one stays long enough to care. The belief that tomorrow will be better than today, the core of the American story, begins to fade. Governments are scrambling. They throw money at the problem, offering tax breaks, cash incentives, and social campaigns urging people to marry and have children. Some nations even pay parents to reproduce, but the numbers barely move. Because this crisis isn't about money, it's about faith. And once a generation stops believing, no amount of incentives can bring that faith back. Corporations face a different but equally devastating problem. Their models depend on constant growth, more workers, more consumers, more loyalty. But loyalty is gone. Workers job hop, refuse to sacrifice their lives for companies that give nothing back, and increasingly reject the idea of dedicating decades to a single employer. To survive, corporations automate, replacing humans with machines. But every machine that replaces a worker also removes a consumer. The system eats itself. The rebellion that began with small personal decisions to rent, to travel, to avoid debt has scaled into something far greater. It's reshaping economies, governments, and power structures. The American dream isn't simply fading, it's being dismantled, brick by brick, belief by belief. And here lies the most dangerous truth. When a society loses its dream, it does not float peacefully into the future. It searches desperately for something else to believe in. History has seen this before. When old myths die, they are replaced, sometimes by hope, sometimes by something far darker. From collapsing empires to revolutions that burned through centuries, the death of a dream has always been the spark for something unpredictable. This moment isn't just about the young rejecting a story that no longer works. It's about the entire structure of a nation standing at the edge of reinvention or collapse. One path tries to drag people back into the old order, forcing them into a system they know is broken. The other embraces change, but with change comes instability, and instability has a way of spiraling out of control. This generation may be remembered as the one that ended the American dream, or perhaps as the one that forged a new vision, one not built on fences and mortgages, but on something we cannot yet define. Right now, that future is still taking shape, invisible but inevitable. Because when the foundations of a nation begin to crumble, the question is no longer what will fall. The real question is far more dangerous, far more unsettling. What will rise to replace it, and who will control the story of what comes next?
Some endings happen quietly. You don't hear them, you feel them. The American dream isn't exploding, it's dissolving, piece by piece, until one day you wake up and realize it's gone. And when something this big dies, it doesn't leave silence, it leaves a vacuum. Vacuums never stay empty for long. Something new is already creeping in to take its place. You can't see it yet, but it's there, waiting. The real fight isn't about houses, jobs, or families.
It's about who writes the next story. Because whoever controls the next dream controls the future. If you don't want to be blind to what's coming, make sure this truth spreads. Like this video so more people can see what they were never meant to know. Subscribe to Bull Secrets, because the secrets we uncover next will take you even deeper into the shadows of the system. The old world is falling, and the next one is already watching you.